and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, November 22nd, 2024. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I have a few finished objects to share with you all today. I was able to finish the socks that I was making for my son's birthday coming up next week. He requested that I make him some socks with some red pickup trucks on them, and that is what I've done here. So I cast on 68 stitches using US 0.2mm needles. I did 2 by 2 ribbing for 20 rounds, and then I increased my stitch count to 80 stitches for the color work. I just made up my own chart. I looked at a few charts on some patterns online and I couldn't find anything that was just what I wanted, so I kind of tweaked them to, you know, I kind of played around with the chart to make something that was what I was looking for. And I also increased my needle size to a 2.5 3mm set of needles for the colorwork section. Those were on a 9-inch circular, so that loosened up my tension. I also flip my work inside out when I do the colorwork section so that the floats are being held, you know, they're being wrapped on the outside of the tube as I'm knitting them. And after I was done with the colorwork section, then I again decreased my stitches back down to 68 stitches. And I just knit plain stockinette for 35 rounds after the colorwork before I did a slip stitch heel flap and gusset. And then I knit the foot the same as I do for my own socks. My son's feet are pretty much the same length as mine. I think they're a little bit wider than mine maybe. So that's why, you know, the stitch count is, I usually make my socks using a 60 stitch count. And so that's why I went up to a 68 stitch count for his. But for the number of rounds for the foot, I did the exact same thing as I do for my own. So 50 rounds of plain stockinette. And then for the last 30 rounds before the toe decreases, I included the slip stitch detail that I usually add into my own socks, which is very similar to a slip stitch heel flap, where I just slip one, knit one, just on the bottom of the stitch, just on the bottom of the sock, the stitches on the bottom of the sock, for one round. And then the next round I knit all those stitches. So I repeat those 2 rows of slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one on the bottom only, and then knit 1 plain row. I repeat those 2 rounds for a total of 30 rounds before I do the toe decreases. The yarn that I use, the main color here is Berroco Vintage Sock Yarn. The color number is 12056. And then the contrast, or the color work colors that I use, the red is a Stylecraft Head Over Heels yarn in the Rudolph colorway. And then the black is Knit Picks Stroll in black. And I started these on October 28th and I finished them on November 19th. And I think that is everything for these. My son's birthday is next week, so I'm so excited to be able to gift these to him. I think he'll really love them. I hope they fit him well. I think they will. I think they'll be a good fit for him. They are not going to be, I think they're going to be great. I hope so. But I'm very excited to gift them to him. I've been blocking them inside out. I knit them with the color work being flipped inside out so that he couldn't see them. And I blocked them and blocked them inside out on these blockers so I can just have them, I don't have to hide them. I can have them laying around and they're inside out like this so that he doesn't see them. So anyway, that's been kind of nice to be able to have them, you know, I didn't have to really hide them. I just had to flip them inside out and he couldn't, you know, he couldn't tell that that was for him. He hasn't asked about them since he first requested them. So hopefully it'll be a fun surprise for him to see them all done. I was also able to finish my other pair of Colorwork socks that I was making for myself. This is the November chart for the Colorwork Cuff Club designed by Summer Lee. She gave two options this month to either do a very colorful chart, or you could just use one contrast color. This way uses 5 contrast colors. And I love how they turned out so much. I think they're so beautiful. I really loved picking out the colors for this chart, and the pattern was super fun to work up. For these, I cast on 60 stitches and I did 2x1 ribbing for 12 rounds. Then I increased my stitches to 72 stitches for the Colorwork section. Again, I changed my needle size starting with US 0.2 millimeter, and then I increased for the Colorwork section to US 2.53 millimeter needles and did them the same as the other ones that I mentioned, knitting those on 9-inch circulars and so forth. And then once I was done with the Colorwork, I decreased my stitches back down to 60 stitches, and I did 33 rounds after the Colorwork before I did my slip stitch heel flap. And same thing for the slip stitch section on the ball of my foot and the rounded toe. The main color that I used for these is Knit Picks Stroll in the Goldenrod Heather colorway. And all of the yarn for both of these is fingering weight yarn. The majority of it is 75-25. The Berroco vintage sock yarn did have a mixture of acrylic in it. I don't remember the percentage, I didn't write that down, but otherwise all of the yarns I've used for these socks are 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon yarns. I will put in the description box the different colors that I've used for the Colorwork here, but I won't go through all of those right now. I started these on November 2nd and I finished them on November 21st. And I love them so much. I am definitely going to keep this chart in mind for maybe doing this again, because I think this has been my favorite one so far to actually work up of the Colorwork charts that she's come out with. But it's really, really fun. I'm just still enjoying working up these Colorwork Cuff Club socks every month. I get excited for the next month to come around so that I can see what she comes up with next. It's been super fun to work on these. I did want to mention that I am an ambassador for Knit Picks, which again, I don't really know what that means. All I know is that I'm part of their ambassador program, and I have a coupon code that you can use if you want to purchase Knit Picks yarn, and you can get 15% off if you use this code when you check out. So I think that's the only benefit that I have at this point, and it's not like, I don't think that I get any benefit for you using that code. You know, it's not like I get an incentive for that. It's just an incentive for you, and I can use it if I order, obviously, too. But other than that, I haven't learned of anything that comes along with the ambassador program besides this coupon code that I can share with you all. So that's nice though. Okay, those are my 2 finished objects, and I have 6 works in progress to share with you all. 3 old works in progress and 3 new. But before I go on to those, I did just want to mention, if you haven't seen, I did put out a tutorial showing how I make granny squares and how I weave or I crochet over my ends as I make my granny squares. And then I also, at the end of that video, I also showed how I join my how I join my granny squares together. There's an itsy bitsy little spider going up the wall right in front of me here. I'm gonna try to get it because I don't want him in my bedroom. Okay. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know, if you did not see that tutorial and you're curious about how I make granny squares, I've just seen a lot of people making granny squares lately, and they leave all of these tails. Here's my sample of a very crazy tail-filled granny square. And whenever I see people making granny squares with all these tails, I'm just like, oh, wonder why they do that. It'd be a lot easier just to crochet over those, because that's what I do. And maybe some people are interested in my technique, but I just thought I would share it in case it can be helpful for other people, because I think it's a lot more enjoyable to make granny squares and crochet over the ends as you go along so that you don't have a ton of tails to weave in at the end of your project. So I just thought I would share how I do that. If you're interested, I will link that in the description box below as well. Okay, on to my works in progress. I think I'll show my Hexi Scrappy flower blanket first. I have added 6 flower motifs to this blanket since the last time I recorded an episode. So I just want to share with you how it's coming along. The ones that I have added are this one, number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I made a total of 28 full flower motifs and 4 half motifs for this blanket, and I am joining them using some bare yarn, also from Knit Picks. This is Knit Picks Muse fingering weight, which is another 75-25 blend, and it's just in the bare color. All of the yarns that I've used for this blanket are fingering weight. I've been using a C 2.75 millimeter hook. I am using a tutorial that I have here on my YouTube channel as well, and I will link to that down below so that you can see how I make these hexes. In the tutorial, I do switch colors in the hexagon 3 times, so I have 3 different colors in each hexagon. And for this project, I am only using 1 color per little hexagon. So that is a variation from the tutorial, but you still get the general idea of how to make these. So I am still really enjoying the process of making this, and it's coming along really well. I'm kind of to the halfway point, basically. I think it's turning out really pretty. I'm so pleased with how it's coming along. On my chart here, basically I've gotten this done from down here up to this section. So yeah, it looks like it's about, I'm about halfway through the blanket. So that's exciting. I started this project in May and it's coming along well. There's no hurry. I'm just really enjoying to continue adding in these pretty motifs. And I love it. I think it's so much fun. One more look at it. So I'm pleased that I was able to get so many of those added in since I recorded last. I want to continue to work on it and not lose steam on this project, so I'm happy with how it's coming along. My next work in progress is being held in this bag that I sewed myself, and this is really close to the finish line. This is my last project from my Make 9 board for the Make 9 2024 now that I'm hosting. And I had originally put a different V-neck cardigan on my Make 9 board, but when I went to go make that project, the pattern was no longer available, so I switched my project to be the Close to Me cardigan, which is a design by Lily Kate France. And since I recorded last time I recorded, I had finished both sleeves and I had gone back to working on the body. I have now finished the length of the body, which is, I haven't really been following the pattern very well. I followed the pattern really well for the beginning part. But then for the sleeves, I did not do the decreases. I did not do the cuff detail that Lily Kate has in her pattern. And also there's supposed to be a garter stitch pattern on near the hem as well, and I eliminated that as well. So I'm kind of doing my own thing, which is typical for me, but I just decided to knit the body straight. And then when I was ready for the ribbing, I just went into garter stitch for the ribbing. Let's see if I can find the picture of what the hem detail is supposed to look like. I've shown you a couple times that there's like a garter stitch detail on the cuffs that I eliminated. Okay, this one shows both. So I eliminated the detail on the cuffs, and then also you can see the hem also is supposed to have a bit of detail there where the garter stitch goes up at an angle on the sides. And I just decided to eliminate that as well. The yarn that I'm using for this is Knit Picks as well. It is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted weight in the Cranberry colorway, which is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. And I'm holding it together with Knit Picks Aloft in Cranberry as well. That is lace weight, 72% Super Kid Mohair, 28% silk. I am using US 7 4.5 millimeter needles for the majority of the project. And then for all of the garter stitch sections, I'm using US 4 3.5 millimeter needles. I started this on September 25th, and I am knitting size 2, which is also a variation from what's recommended for me. What's recommended for me is a larger size, but I didn't want it to be as oversized as what was recommended. So I'm really just doing my own thing. I'm now working on the button bands, or the button band, I guess I should say. And I'm also changing that because, well, this is an experiment I'm doing for the button band. The original pattern calls for you to do a double knit button band, but I wanted to try just doing a garter stitch button band. Since all of the other ribbing is done in garter stitch, I just wanted to try it and see how it goes. So I've just picked up and only have knit one row of the button band, but I'm gonna just do it in garter stitch and see how it works out. Hopefully it will look okay. But that's where I'm at on this project. I'm pretty happy with how it's coming along, and it should be done pretty quickly, I think. So hopefully next time I record, I'll be able to show this as a finished object. Hopefully the button band works out. Otherwise, I'll have to go back and do the double knit button band, which takes a lot longer than garter stitch. It is a really beautiful finish to have a double knit button band, but I'm just trying this out and we'll see how it goes. My next work in progress is being held in another bag that I sewed myself, and I haven't made a ton of progress on this. This is the classic ribbed hat, which is a free pattern from Purl Soho. And let's see, I started this on November 2nd. Last time I recorded, I was right there where this cute little pumpkin pie progress keeper is marking. My cousin Allie made me this. It's so sweet. And so I've about doubled the work that I had last time. I am holding 2 fingering weight yarns together for this project because the pattern calls for DK weight yarn. So I'm holding Yarn Bee Authentic Hand Dyed in the Hibiscus Palm colorway together with a fingering weight yarn that I dyed myself in this burgundy colorway. And I love how that's working up together. I am making the adult medium size. I'm using US 2.5 3mm needles. And it's just a knit one, purl one texture for the majority of the hat until you get to the crown decreases. So that's coming along. It's an easy project. I haven't worked on it a ton though. So I haven't made a ton of progress on that one. Okay, now onto my 3 new works in progress. The first one is being held in this sweet bag that I received from my friend Michelle, who I go to church with. And she also gifted me the yarn that I'm using for this project. So I've started a new pair of socks. And they are using some West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply yarn. I again cast on 60 stitches using US 0.2mm needles. And I did 2x1 ribbing for 20 rounds using the Evergreen colorway. That's a 75% wool, 25% nylon yarn. And then the main color is called Yuletide. And that is on a sparkle base, so it's 75% wool, 23% nylon, and 2% polyester. And you can see the color sequence here goes between these three colors with the green breaking them up. And you can see the next color is just repeating this sequence again. So they're so fun. I just love the colors so much. They're so fun and Christmassy, and I think they will be super fun to have. And hopefully I'll have them done in time for Christmas. I'm sure I will be able to get them done in time. But those are a nice simple project to have on the go. And I'm so thankful to have that yarn. I also have started another pair of socks. These are going to be a gift for my husband. And this bag was given to me by my youngest son. And I am using a bunch of scraps of Patton's Croy socks yarn that I have had left over from other socks that I've made. And I cast on 56 stitches. I go up in my needle size when I use Patton's Croy because it's a little bit thicker than most fingering weight yarn. So I use US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter needles when I knit socks using Patton's Croy. I cast on 56 stitches and did 2x2 ribbing for 12 rounds. And then I'm just doing plain stockinette, and these will be shorties, so I'm only going to do 20 rounds of plain stockinette before I do the heel flaps. My husband likes to wear his hand knit socks just around the house, more of like house slippers kind of. He doesn't wear them in his shoes at all, and he prefers them to be just shorty socks. So that's nice, and it makes it a quick project to whip up. I'm just using, I have a lot of different balls of yarn from different colorways of Patton's Croy, and so I have, these are the two balls I'm using right now. So they are the same colorway, but the stripe sequence is not always going to match. So I started with one colorway. I think this is called Cascade Colors or something like that for the cuffs. So you can tell they're not perfectly matching, but they're both in the same colorway. And then I went into a few rows using the 50s stripes colorway. And then I did a few rounds using a little bit of the blue stripe rag colorway, maybe it's called. And now I'm into this colorway. I don't remember what this one's called, but anyway, so they're not going to be perfectly matching, but I'm always going to be holding the same colorway together at the same time, but the stripes might not be perfectly matching. They'll be scrappy, so it's kind of fun to see how they're working up. I started these on November 19th. I started both of the new socks on November 19th. My last new work in progress is being held in this big felted bag that I received from my husband's aunt. And I had 6 cakes of Lion Brand mandala that I was gifted by a viewer of this channel. I have 3 cakes of the Warlock colorway. This is DK weight 100% acrylic yarn. And then I have 3 cakes of the Brownie colorway, which also has this golden color in it. Here's another cake of that Brownie colorway. At this point, from what I can tell, I don't think I'm going to need to use the 3rd color of this Brownie colorway. I think I'm only going to need to have 5 cakes total, if I've got it figured out right, but I'm not 100% sure. I am making a pattern that I got out of this book called A Year of Afghans, 1997. It is a Leisure Arts publication. And I've made several patterns from this book, which is fun. The one I am making is called Handsome Ripple. Oh, that's funny. This is A Year of Afghans because it's split up into the 12 months of the year. And the one that I am making is actually for the month of November. I didn't even realize that, which is funny. But here's a picture of the Handsome Ripple blanket. And the original pattern calls for worsted weight yarn, but I am, like I said, using DK weight yarn. And I think I went down on my hook size, perhaps. No, I didn't. I'm using the same hook size as what is recommended, which is an H 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter, sorry, an H 5 millimeter hook. But I like the gauge that I am getting with that. So here, I started with the Warlock colorway. Oh, I did chain 20 extra stitches when I started, so that would kind of make up for it probably being a little bit smaller since I'm using DK weight yarn instead of worsted weight yarn. It's measuring to the size that the pattern calls for with those extra 20 stitches added in. And anyway, I started with the Warlock colorway and worked through the whole cake. And then where the white stripe is, that is where the brownie color started. And I am just gonna work through the whole cake of brownie, and then I'm gonna switch back to Warlock, switch back to brownie, and probably end with Warlock again. I think that will be a good length. But I think it's really fun. I don't know what, this is gonna be a gift for someone down the road, but I'm just making it because I wanted to make it. It is a really fun pattern. I've really enjoyed working on it. It is very mindless. You have to pay attention a little bit, but you don't really have to count a lot. So I love that kind of a crochet blanket pattern where I don't mind if you have to pay attention a little bit to make sure your stitches are lining up correctly, but I don't love crochet patterns where you really have to count, 8 stitches here, 5 stitches here, 8, this one's pretty easy. There's just a few different stitches that are repeated, and it's fun. I've enjoyed it so much. And it's been fun to see how the colors are working up together as well. So those are all of my works in progress. I think that's everything I have to share with you all today. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the things that I'm working on, and I hope that you are enjoying the things that you're working on as well. If you are here in America, I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. And yeah, I just wish you all the very best. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.